everyone, let's have more news about the Lakers. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. As the second round ticks closer, the Milwaukee Bucks are focused on making the best pick possible at number 47 or possibly trading up to get into the 30s. What if they tried for something bigger though? The NBA world received an intriguing, albeit anticipated, contract update this afternoon. With 2 years and $28.8 million left on his current deal, Lakers guard Austin Reeves has reportedly declined the team's offer of a 4-year, $90 million max extension. There are already questions about his long-term fit alongside Luka Doncic, another non-athletic, defensively challenged backcourt player. Are the Lakers prepared to offer him more, or are they open to bailing on him when, from a contract perspective, his value is at its highest? The Bucks might have zero business butting in, but it's worth a phone call. One admittedly optimistic trade proposal follows in the paragraphs below. If Reeves is looking for a massive contract, the Bucks would have no desire to re-sign him after any hypothetical deal. The thing about Reeves, he's a great role player and a solid third option, but he isn't the type of star you tie up your franchise for. Granted, as contracts continue climbing, he might be worth more than the 4 years and $90 million. How much more he wants is the key consideration. Let's assume that he elects free agency in 2 years. The Bucks could still benefit from his presence in the short term, especially next season, when he would alleviate Damian Lillard's absence. Reeves looked awful in the playoffs, but he's had some impressive stretches stepping up when Lakers stars are sidelined. In 2024-25 overall, he averaged 20.2 points and 5.8 assists while shooting 37.7% on threes. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
2026. Now,
sure.
that is not something that
hey, look, the Lakers have definitely they went into the postseason with a little bit of momentum, but it didn't cash it in. In order to get from where they ended the season
and try to have another good year and chase a 9-figure contract.
Well, as Brian said, they need to get a center here, and this is what they have.
Hey, look, the Lakers have definitely they went into the postseason with a little bit of momentum, but it didn't cash it in. In order to get from where they ended the season to
here's the list of centers,
Bobby, what do they need?
Well, as Brian said, Hayes was on the roster here, and this is what they have. They have only some of these older veterans, Larry Nance, Clint Capella. They have Al Horford, of course, $5.7 million, not the most robust mid-level center market out there. Centers you could see here, they potentially have that mid-level exception. Hayes, who was on the roster last year, Luke Kornet, Mason Plumlee, some of these older veterans, Larry Nance, they tried to go out and get Mark Williams. Al Horford, of course, at the deadline, that failed. Mark Williams goes to Phoenix here. So there are resources to go here. They have that Lakers here, but they're certainly competing against a lot of 2031 or 2032. As Brian said, there's a priority. Remember, they tried to go out and get eligible August 2nd at the deadline. That failed. Mark around him and LeBron. Phoenix here. So there are resources to go out there for the Lakers here, but they're certainly competing against a lot of other teams. And as Brian said, there's a priority with Luka.
Dan, as Bobby said, they have to get a center, right? They have to find somebody who's a lob threat, in particular for Luka Doncic. That's the kind of player he's always thrived with. But this team needs several things. They need more shooting on the perimeter. They need more defense on the perimeter to be able to stop some of the elite perimeter scorers in the Western Conference. They have to find somebody who's a lob threat, in particular on defense, who could also be the kind of player he's always thrived with. But this team needs several things. They need more shooting on the perimeter. They need more defense on the perimeter to be able to stop to go out and sign guys perimeter scorers outside the Western Conference, and they have draft assets that rim protector on defense who could also be contracts to do some stuff. That's a lot of stuff for a team that, as Bobby said, at the end of the day, we just saw the Oklahoma City Thunder with an incredibly deep roster, which isn't that big, cruise through to go out and sign guys free outside of minimums, outside of a 7-game series with Denver to get to the finals in trade. That is the bar the Lakers have to clear. Some stuff they have a lot of work to do with, but if they want to be seen as a team that's truly on the level of the Thunder in the West.
One name to keep an eye on as we enter the weekend. Sunday is the last day for players with their options.
To get to the finals,
he's got a $14 million player option.
They have a lot of work to do if they want to be seen as a team that's truly on the level of the Thunder in the West.
There are going to be teams to keep an eye on as we enter the weekend. Sunday is the last day for players with their options. Is Dorian Finney-Smith. He's got a $14 million player option. The Lakers cannot afford to lose him if Finney-Smith goes out in the free agent market. There are going to be teams out there with that non-tax mid-level exception available to offer him.
All right, so big couple of weeks for the Lakers.
I want to shift to another big offseason storyline, Wendy, and that's in Milwaukee. What's going on with the Bucks?
Yeah, the whole league is sort of keeping at least one eye on the Bucks. So they have 7 free agents. The Bucks, as constructed last year, their sort of core players, guys like Brook Lopez, and that was before they lost Gary Trent, potentially Bobby Portis at the outside of his contract over the weekend. And look, Giannis has made it clear he wants to compete for championships. Right now, there is no question as constructed last year. Don't reassemble a team in the middle of the pack, and that was viewed as a contender in the Eastern Conference. An Achilles injury. That may be something that Giannis has not asked, and that's one thing the league is definitely watching. The Bucks are not interested in trading for him.
For the
right
Bucks,
now,
then,
there's
if
no
they're
stress
trying
in
to
that.
convince
But if the Bucks don't
Giannis
reassemble
that they're serious
a team
about winning again,
that is viewed as a contender in the Eastern
it's going to be a real grab bag search to try to find enough guys to do what Brian said, and just make this team competitive enough in the Eastern Conference to make it seem like they could be a home court advantage team. And even with Jason Tatum's Achilles tear, even with Tyrese Halliburton's Achilles tear, it's hard to see for me to try to find enough guys to good enough to do that. They have even less draft assets than the Lakers. They have very limited seem like they could be a home court advantage. It's unclear if they're even with Jason Tatum's Achilles tear, even with Tyrese Halliburton's $130 million Achilles tear, it's hard to see for me how the Bucks are going to be good enough next season to do that. They have even less draft assets than the Lakers. They have very limited financial flexibility. It's unclear if they're even able to go in the East. And by the way, these guys lost in 5 games over $130 million to the Pacers, and we're pretty far away from being competitive in that series with Giannis playing out of his mind. So there's a ton of work for the Bucks to do. If again, very limited financial and draft assets to do so, this is going to be as hard a challenge as in the first round of the Pacers, and we're pretty far away from championship team from being competitive in that series with Giannis playing out of his mind. So there's a ton of work for the Bucks to do. And again, very limited financial and draft assets to do so. This is going to be as hard a challenge as we've seen the NBA for a while. Turn the Bucks into a championship team with the assets these guys have at their disposal.
The question that follows, Tim, is
let's see where the Bucks sit on August 1st.
Are we looking at a situation where Giannis will win?
Let's see what they can get, and then let's revisit things in a few weeks and see where all of this stands. Because the Bucks in the past have not had a lot of assets. My stance on this whole to be aggressive and go out. Let's see where fill in the Bucks sit on August 1st. Last summer was a good example. See how they do in July. That was expected to be what they could get. Somewhere in the mid-teens things in a few weeks and see where all of this stands. They're going to have a lot of playing time to offer. They're going to not had a lot of assets. Being able to play next to Giannis Antetokounmpo to be aggressive and go out attention taken off you to fill in the roster. Gary Trent last summer was a good example. He was a guy that was expected to be players to come somewhere in the mid-teens as a free agent. At the end of the day, they're going to find a way to get it done. Let's see where this sits on August 1st. Being able to play next to Giannis Antetokounmpo,
the one thing that John Horst,
a lot of
their general
attention taken off you to be able to
do every time there has been some speculation regarding Giannis,
to players to come there and play, but at the end of the day, they have to find a way to get it done. Let's see where this sits on August 1st.
The one thing that John Horst, their general manager, there's not another to do every time there has been some speculation regarding Giannis. Don't have. They have a 2031, 2030 Damian Lillard to trade, similar to the Lakers. They have the Kuzma contract, but right now, Tim said, 80% of their salaries tied up in there, and they have all these free agents, so they're going to have to prioritize. They have a 2031 or 2032 pick to trade, similar to the Lakers. They have the Kuzma contract, but as Tim said, 80% of their salaries tied up in there, and they have all these free agents, so they're going to have to prioritize who they want to bring back.
And I'm going to actually, when they did that, the rest of the league was like, oh my God, I can't believe that they paid so much. The reason the 2026 by the New Orleans Pelicans draft as a viewed as so valuable by the league to acquire does not believe the Bucks are going to pull this off. And they could be wrong when they did that, but that's the rest of the league was like, oh my God, I can't believe that they paid so much.
One of the storylines later this summer could be, where's Giannis going to go? What would be a team you'd watch?
Well, listen, there's a reason why San Antonio still has a lot of their draft assets and players, and they were not heavily involved in the Kevin Durant trade.
One of the storylines later this summer could be, where's Giannis going to go? What would be a team you'd watch?
Well, listen, there's a reason why San Antonio still has a lot of their draft assets and players, and they were not heavily involved in the Kevin Durant trade.
There's a reason why the
Let's finish with another team that's surrounded by uncertainty. Windhorst, the Knicks don't have a coach. What's going on? Wendy opened up this segment by saying the entire league is paying attention to what's going on in Milwaukee, and so will we over the coming weeks. Let's finish with another team that's surrounded by uncertainty. Windhorst, the Knicks don't have a coach. What's going on?
Well, yeah, so their next interviewed and a finalist for interview Cavaliers job last currently, and look, they interviewed Mike Brown. They interviewed a well-regarded assistant, long-time top. They interviewed Taylor Jenkins. Comes out of the Greg Popovich tree. They're going through a process, and we're through the interviewed and a finalist unusual to still not have a coach. Last free agency begins, but I would say it was unusual to fire a coach. Mike Brown. They interviewed Mike and Norrie, assistant.
So just kind of going against the grain here. They interviewed Taylor Jenkins. What do you make of the way they're handling it?
They're going through a process.
They've got 7 of their best players under contract.
This is unusual to still not have a coach as free agency begins, but I would say it's unusual to fire a
with me is they don't have a coach in place and their priorities.
Yeah, so just kind of going against
when you're going to meet with free agents,
what do you make of the way they're handling?
You have to go bargain shopping. They've got 7 of their best players on the contract. Who's the coach going to be? We went through this Sunday. 2014 when I was Monday. Excuse me. The concern with me is they don't have a coach in place and their priorities to Milwaukee. And then we had when you're going to meet with free agents, a little bit different. Basically, you have to go bargain shopping, and that did hamper us a little bit as the coach going to be. We went through this in 2014 that we were willing to sign. We had traded Jason Kidd, who was the head coach at the time, to Milwaukee, and then we had a team that's got $60 million in cap space and is going to meet with marquee free agents, and you don't have a coach compared to what New York has, where you do have how we could approach players that we were willing to priority to get not having one in place at the time of the signing.
Tim, how do you see this playing out in New York?
There's a big difference as a team that's got $60 million in cap space and is going to meet with marquee free agents, and you don't have a coach compared to what New York has, where you do have the 7 players. But I do think there's only one thing that's acceptable, which is making the NBA Finals and competing for a championship next season. If the Knicks hire a coach over the next month, here's the 2 months, 3 months, whenever, and that coach gets them to the NBA Finals for the first time, everyone's going to forget about their process. There's only one thing that's acceptable, which is making the NBA Finals and competing for a championship next season. If the Knicks hire a coach over the next month, 2 months, what are these guys doing? What's going to happen next? Gets them to the NBA Finals. The process has been messy so far. Everyone's going to forget about their process. Actions over words. If the action winds up being in the first or second round, getting the Knicks where they want to go, as far as it is last year with Tibbs, it's going to be for the Knicks has to be to find a way to get what are these guys doing that's going to check those boxes for them, and there isn't an obvious one out there messy so far. That's why, Brian said earlier,
in the Miami Heat looking for things that the Lakers could provide. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the LakersNation.com YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Happy draft day, everybody. The NBA draft is here, coming up tonight. Be live over on the Front Office Show YouTube channel, breaking down all the draft picks. And of course, if anything happens in the Lakers world, we'll be jumping on here, talking all about it. But let's talk about the latest on Andrew Wiggins, maybe a trade target for your Los Angeles Lakers. The Miami Herald saying that the Miami Heat are exploring trades for Andrew Wiggins and could deal him for an expiring contract in order to have max level cap space in 2026. So the Lakers, they are a team that can offer expiring salaries, and Andrew Wiggins would appear to be something of a fit for them. You look what the Lakers have. We know they've got, of course, Rui Hachimura. We'll talk about whether or not the Lakers should do a deal around him, but they also have expiring salaries in guys like potentially Austin Reeves. Personally, I wouldn't part with him for Andrew Wiggins, but nonetheless, he is an expiring salary. Then you've got Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber making a little over $22 million combined in expiring money. So if the Lakers were to trade for Andrew Wiggins, what would they be getting, and what would a deal look like? Would it actually be worth it? So Wiggins just turned 30 years old back in February, 6'8" wing. What I like is he does a lot of his defensive work on the perimeter, and that's really where the Lakers need the most defensive help. They simply have too many guys on their roster who are at their best when they're defending fours. Well, that's not really Andrew Wiggins. He's more of a guy who's going to defend threes. He's going to defend on the perimeter, and that's where he's going to see most of his usefulness. Now, offensively, ranks in the 53rd percentile among wings when he was playing with the Miami Heat in terms of points per shot attempt. That's okay. I mean, that is the definition of average, right? The 53rd percentile in terms of points per shot attempt. He's a guy who you have to respect behind the arc. Shot 36% from three as a Miami Heat. Shot 36% from three as his career. Again, very average. That's typically right on league average, right around 36% from three. So is he a guy that teams are going to be scared of behind the arc? No, but he's good enough to where they have to defend him out there, and that may be all that matters. Now, did put up 19 points per game last season when he was with the Heat. That was only in 17 games, though. Was traded there from the Golden State Warriors in the Jimmy Butler deal. 18 points for rounding up with the Golden State Warriors this past season. I would expect the scoring to not be particularly high with the Lakers because they've got Luka, because they've got Austin, LeBron James, of course. You wouldn't need Andrew Wiggins to score quite as many points. So I think the scoring numbers might drop, but concurrently you would have the efficiency probably come up. He'd be getting good looks in the Lakers offense, 46% from the field. Could you get maybe 37% from three out of him on open look? Sure. I think that's within the realm of possibility. And again, all of that is just fine on the offensive end. But what you would really be trading for is Andrew Wiggins and his defense. That's what you'd be looking to get out of Andrew Wiggins. And you look at what he's done here on the glass, the rebounding that he can provide, particularly on the offensive glass. He's done a nice job there over the course of his career. Not as good on the defensive glass, even relative to his position as a wing. Not as good there on the defensive glass. 38th percentile with Miami, 20th percentile with Golden State. And you look over the course of his career, his defensive rebounding has just not been great relative to his peers, but the offensive rebounding has been fantastic. Does a nice job getting the long bounce, mid-range rebounds that the Golden State Warriors are known for. The three ball that gets missed and then lands around the free throw line, Wiggins can go and get those. And then the steal percentage you like, particularly with Miami. Golden State, he didn't gamble quite as much, but you also like for the position, the block percentage, 1 block per game, 98th percentile with Miami. Maybe that was a little bit high because of a small sample size, but still 82nd percentile with Golden State last season. So does a nice job timing things. Not like he's blocking multiple shots per game, but 1 block per game. He's at least somebody who can pick up some blocks for you. And then, as I said, positionally, he's somebody who does spend most of the bulk of his minutes at small forward. And if you look at over the course of his career, he's been much more effective as a small forward than as a power forward or as a shooting guard. He does have a little bit of positional versatility, but he really is a 3. Whereas a guy like, say, Rui Hachimura can look at and say, is his best position maybe actually power forward? He fit in fairly well with the Lakers at the 3, but Andrew Wiggins is more of a true, definitive small forward. That's what he is. He's going to make a lot of his money defending on the perimeter out there. That's not quite what Rui Hachimura is. He's more of a 3-4, perhaps sometimes even a 4-5. And so if we're talking about replacing Rui Hachimura's role and the Lakers needing more perimeter defense, Andrew Wiggins could make some sense in that regard. The only one concern, though, with all of this is Wiggins, his on-off numbers. He's been a net negative for the last few seasons on his teams, whether it was the Warriors or the Miami Heat. They've been better with him off the floor than on. And then you look at Golden State season before last, the defensive numbers certainly not encouraging there. And the same thing with Miami. But he has gone through some stuff. And if you think you're getting the best version of Andrew Wiggins out there with the Los Angeles Lakers, he does make sense as a target. I think that positionally, I think that skill set wise, he is a fit with this team. So then how do you make a trade work for Andrew Wiggins? Well, the Lakers, they do have these expiring salaries. Now, Miami is already rumored to have tried to get into the mix on Kevin Durant using Andrew Wiggins as well as other assets. I think that's their preferred route. That will always be the preferred route of the Miami Heat, is to chase the big names. But the rumor being that they want to clear salary to make a run in free agency in 2026. Now, ironically, one of the guys that they would be targeting in 2026 would be Luka Doncic if he actually is available and out there on the market. Another player would be Austin Reeves. Now, Luka, the Lakers hope will sign an extension coming up here in August 2nd. He can sign that extension. And assuming he does sign that, which right now we have every indication to believe that he will, that will take him off the market. But then that would also give Miami less incentive to trade away Andrew Wiggins to open up cap space for the summer of 2026. And then Austin Reeves, the same thing. He will be offered a contract extension. I'm quite confident of that this summer, but it will still be below market value. So Reeves actually has some financial incentive to wait until next summer in free agency. And that's when teams like perhaps the Miami Heat, with plenty of cap space, could come calling for Austin. So that's a little bit of a tricky situation here, where if you're the Lakers and you're worried at all about losing, say, Luka, or more specifically Austin Reeves, more likely Austin Reeves to be actually a free agent in the summer of 2026, well, you would be making a move here that would open up cap space for the Miami Heat to potentially go after your player. Now, that said, if you were to do a trade for Andrew Wiggins, you'd be taking on salary into 2026 for the Lakers. Right now, their books are very, very clean that year. So they've got a lot of room to maneuver. If we're looking to truly turn the page, and I do think they're going to make moves, I don't know if it'll be today, but they're going to make moves in the next few weeks to try to make this team fit around Luka as best as they can. That's now the plan for this team. It's all about building around Luka, but maintaining flexibility for the summer of 2026 is not something we should just dismiss or try to undersell, because that's where you could truly have the opportunity to pivot this team and change the structure of it around Luka Doncic. So it is significant that Andrew Wiggins does have a player option for the 26-27 season, and that would limit some of the Lakers' flexibility that summer. So that's not something that we should undersell as something the Lakers would have to consider in any trade that would bring in Andrew Wiggins and any other player that has longer term salary on the books, particularly if they're going to be giving up expiring contracts in order to facilitate that. Now, obviously, from the Lakers' perspective, I think the preferred option would be to trade 2 expirings in Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleba, and then Jared Vanderbilt, and see if you can clear that salary off the books. You're essentially taking 3 bench players that you've got and turning them into one solid rotation guy in Andrew Wiggins. The Lakers do need depth, and so maybe there's a little bit of a concern there. You'd have to have another plan to fill your backup guard position as well. But nonetheless, I think that would be the preferred path for the Lakers. If I'm the Miami Heat, though, I'm saying no, I want Rui Hachimura in the deal, and then Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleba, and then maybe Dalton Connect. Maybe it's draft capital, something like that they would want in addition. Now, could the Lakers say, well, we're giving you just pure expirings, we're giving you Rui, and let's call it Gabe Vincent, who used to be with the Miami Heat. Maybe his powers will return back in Miami, and then we're going to absorb another $30 million in salary for next year. So if you guys want any kind of assets in addition to that, go take a hike. We're not doing that. Potentially, I think there is a little bit of leverage there from the Lakers situation. So could you get a better fitting player without having to give up too much in terms of draft capital, future assets, things of that nature? Get Andrew Wiggins. Maybe you have to part with Rui Hachimura to do it, but perhaps Andrew Wiggins is the better fit anyway, and then go from there. Yeah, look, that does make some sense to me from the Lakers side of things. Of course, the ideal option would be to do it without including Rui Hachimura, but that may simply not be realistic depending on what it is that the Miami Heat are after. Now, finally, while Andrew Wiggins could certainly help with the Lakers' perimeter defense, let's remember, if you're going to do this trade, you also need to, if you're the Lakers, be cognizant of having enough left over to still go and fix the center position where you need at least one, maybe two bigs. I think it's two. Plus, you need to go find a defensive guard as well, whether that's Gabe Vincent or otherwise, you would need to fill that hole too. So that's the other thing the Lakers would have to be aware of in all of this. Whatever they were to give up to get Andrew Wiggins, would they then be able to pivot and still fill the remaining needs on the roster? But I do think it makes some sense if the Miami Heat's goal is truly just to clear salary for next summer and the Lakers are okay.
Nikola Jokic led the Denver Nuggets with an historic performance this season, even though his team fell short in the second round series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The three-time MVP averaged 29.6 points, 12.7 rebounds, and 10.2 assists in 70 games, including NBA history-making 30-20-20 and 40-15-15 outings. He remains one of the most dominant big men to ever play in the league. Jokic's contract, which he signed in 2022, runs through the 2027-28 season, though the final season is a player option. On July 8th, Jokic becomes eligible for a 3-year supermax extension worth $212 million. Many assume the team will offer, and he will eventually sign such an extension. The decision will shape Denver's future, even as financial and roster strategies come into sharper focus. However, an eyebrow-raising comment from Nuggets owner Josh Kroenke stunned the NBA. Discussing the consequences of the second salary cap apron during a press conference on Tuesday, Kroenke warned salary constraints mixed with a catastrophic injury could force Denver into considering a Jokic trade. That is a shocking admission considering Jokic is widely viewed as the Nuggets' immutable cornerstone. The wrong person gets injured and very quickly you're in a scenario that I never want to contemplate, and that's trading number 15, Kroenke admitted. That statement, although hypothetical, quickly sparked reactions from Lakers fans excited about the idea of Jokic potentially being available one day. While a trade remains exceedingly unlikely, the blockbuster mid-season acquisition of Luka Doncic by Los Angeles continues to fuel optimism about the Lakers landing more superstars in the future. In reality, Denver still builds its plans firmly around its MVP big man, but Kroenke's admission serves as a reminder that in today's NBA, no player is truly untouchable. And you, fan, what do you think about Nikola Jokic's situation? Leave your opinion in the